would be our.
Go ahead, Julie, you're all set.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. I'm going to call the emergency meeting of the Select Board and Board of Water and Wastewater Commissioners to order for April 10th, 2024. And note that as required by open meeting law, you're hereby informed that the town will be video and audio taping as well as live broadcasting this public meeting. In addition, anyone in the audience that plans on to video or audio tape this meeting, please let me know. Hearing nobody, Joe?
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. And I do want to acknowledge that you may have some of your colleagues from the Board of Water Wastewater Commissioners. I do want to put out there for the general public to understand that we are operating in an emergency manner, and so this has come together as quickly as possible. We wanted to make sure that the Board of Water Wastewater Commissioners had an opportunity to be present. We also recognize that many of them may not be available yet, given how fast things are occurring. But I do think it may be helpful for the record if you identified who is also here for the Board of Water Wastewater Commissioners.
Okay, so if I can see, Noreen, if you would start. Who else is on for water commissioners?
I've just, been texting a couple, but I haven't gotten through to anybody yet, other than Dan.
Okay. Thank you, Noreen. We also have Michael McCaskill, Select Board member, on the go-to as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, members of the Board of Water Wastewater Commissioners, and as you can see to my right, we're joined by the Town of Harwich department heads, and we thank you for getting this meeting together. And really the purpose of this meeting is to ramp up information regarding the drinking water emergency that the town became aware of late on April 9th. We are still under a drinking water ban. There should be no drinking water occurring in the town of Harwich at present. The information that I had this morning, and others may be available to speak more readily, however, is that through our water wastewater superintendent, we are working through the Mass Department of Environmental Protection to see if we can get that order localized to the area that was impacted, that of course being the village of North Harwich. At present, that has not occurred, so we are doing this as a townwide ban. The main purpose today is to have you, the Select Board, to declare an emergency for drinking water purposes so that the town can preserve its rights for procurement and any other necessary steps that may occur. And then I'm working with department heads, public safety first among them, on a distribution of water for the public that we'll talk about. But for right now, I think the appropriate action is for the board to discuss and hopefully declare an emergency for drinking water purposes.
Thank you, Joe. So do you need any official vote by the board members?
Yes, I would ask for motions, discussion, and vote, please.
Great, thanks. Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we vote to declare an emergency relative to the incident, and that we invoke emergency powers for the town vis-a-vis procurements.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor? I'm going to roll call because
Sure.
Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. 5-0.
Thank you. So if the board is looking for more information, I can give you as much as I know. Certainly Chief LeBlanc and Superintendent Pelletier could speak to it. And then for our purposes, we're going to resume our department head meeting to talk about water distribution. We may be looking at a single point of contact, such as the community center. We may be looking to do that as a drive-through process, but we're going to flesh that out and get information out to everybody as soon as possible.
That was going to be my follow-up question, is what do you think the timing is on being able to then distribute?
So we've been able to secure water immediately through the immediate efforts of the superintendent and public safety and health department. So I think having an inventory is not going to be an issue. The issues are going to be distribution and length of need for distribution.
Right, okay. And you'll know more as the day progresses.
We certainly hope so and expect so.
Right, thank you. I'll leave it to Dan if you want to come up and give an update.
Sure, thank you. So just an update as to where we're at right now.
Crews were out last night. We got our first call around 4:30. We began opening up hydrants, and we flushed the system through until about 2 o'clock this morning. We were seeing foam in Great Western Road on Depot, right around the corner. I do not believe that any of the foam went towards the east. I believe it is localized to the northwest portion of town. The way that the distribution system operates and the way at the time at which the pumps were running, that was one of the things that worked in our favor. The pumping for the water system actually shut off right before firefighting activities went into place, so the firefighting foam that was introduced to the system was not distributed broadly throughout town. We did receive a handful of calls, like I said, in the northwestern portion. We just went up to the Barnstable County lab and got the appropriate sample bottles, so we are coordinating testing samples presently to get those up to the lab for analysis. Once we get confirmation that there is no longer foam present, it's our expectation that we'll be able to lift that ban. I am waiting for a call back from DEP at 9 o'clock, where I'm hoping they will allow us to reduce this to the localized area. There's only 2 water mains that feed this section of town, so it's not like a big grid network that would have spread broadly. That's where we're at presently.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Quick question. How frequently will the additional testing occur, you know, even if you come back with a positive result or I guess a negative result?
So we, at this point, following DEP's guidance, we're doing our initial sampling round. I don't know that they would require any additional sampling, but it's something that we could definitely do voluntarily, in a few weeks just to verify.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Chief, if you want to.
Madam Chair, members of the board, just by way of explanation, I sent an email to the board. I'm just going to read that email. I think that it kind of lets everybody know how we got there. The first thing I'd like to highlight is that about 3 or 4 years ago, using a program through the DEP, we replaced all of our foam. We had identified the PFAS and all the legacy chemicals that have been identified as being hazardous, where it was determined that the DEP funded this cleanup process, and then we spent additional funds to get rid of foam that, even though it wasn't identified as hazardous, may contain harmful chemicals. So the foam that we're using, while I wouldn't necessarily want to put it in my drinking water or on my salad, it's biodegradable, it has no legacy chemicals in it, it has no PFAS in it. And I think that that's really important when we look at the totality of the incident. Yes, it's a small area, and the hazard is minimal, but I'm not minimizing the where we are. So just by way of explanation, yesterday around 11 o'clock, Harwich responded on an automatic response to a building fire in Dennis. For everybody familiar, right at the town line behind the Great Western Deli, there's some storage buildings. The fire was involved 2 bays in that building. Significant fire on arrival. We arrived first. As they were coming in, the Harwich engine connected to a hydrant on the Harwich side of the town line, and they laid into that supply line. As Dan had indicated, it's a dead-end main. It ends at the town line, and those typically have poor pressure. We typically don't use dead-end mains for firefighting operations because they're not satisfactory. This happened yesterday. We got back there, we started operations, we didn't have enough water. Our normal plan would be to put another engine on the hydrant in Harwich and have them augment the volume and pressure of the water coming out. The second engine coming in came from Dennis. They dropped or connected to a hydrant on the Dennis side in front of the storage building and laid in and then augmented our water supply that way. Not a typical way we would do it, but it's certainly something we can do. So now, by way of explanation, you have our engine in the back of the building that has 2 hydrant lines coming into it, one from Dennis and one from Harwich. The one from Dennis is being pressurized by their pumper, whereas the one from Harwich is just being pressurized by the water system. As we were fighting the fire, a gas tank let go in one of the vehicles, and we then had a flaming puddle of gasoline coming out of the building towards people. Flaming gasoline fires, flammable liquid fires involve firefighting foam. That's what it's there for. We immediately switched to a foam operation, knocked the fire down, put the fire out in the building. What we've later determined, and it took a significant amount of work by the superintendent of the water department, a bunch of other fire chiefs. I was on the phone with the salesman from the fire truck company. The way our foam system works, it injects the foam onto there's two parts of the fire pump, a discharge side, which is where all the water comes out of, and an intake side where all the water comes into. Our foam system that we have on that particular engine injects the foam onto the intake side. It takes water from the discharge side and puts it into the intake side. So now we have two hydrant lines coming in, building the foam on the intake side. When firefighting operations stop, when they shut down the nozzles, there's still that water coming in. And what we determined was the pressure on the Dennis side is greater than the pressure on the Harwich side, and it was able, high pressure goes to low pressure, it was able to push that foamy water back through our hydrant line into the water main. We used a total of 25 gallons of foam, and we flowed thousands of gallons of water into the building yesterday. My estimation is that the amount of foamy water that went back in solution into the water main is minimal, but a little bit of foam looks like a lot. It's like, you know, it's like dish soap. A little bit makes suds. So that's how we got where we are here today. You know, I truly regret the situation happened. I don't think it's anything that any of us could have anticipated. Everybody that I've talked to since has kind of had like a V8 moment where like, I never even thought that that would be possible.
Right.
The likelihood, and it really just because we were in two different water systems, was kind of the perfect storm of events.
Thank you, yeah.
I did reach out at the town administrator's request. For the distribution, we'll probably have the CERT team available. They are available. They've been spun up. So as soon as we have details, they will be available to assist the town in doing that. I'm available for any other questions the board may have.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions? Okay, thank you. Chief?
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, next steps will be, again, we're going to resume our department head meeting for the purposes of the distribution plan. Our regulatory departments have and will be reaching out to the businesses in the town of Harwich. And as Chief just mentioned, we're relying upon the Community Emergency Response Team is what I think CERT stands for, so CERT. And again, the emphasis on that is for Harwich residents and Harwich families to have access to drinking water.
Right.
And again, we'll rely upon all of our communication channels, of course, social media, the Harwich channel, our distributions through the emergency response system. And if folks are watching this either now or later, we always remind everybody to go through the town website to sign up for the alerts so that when situations like these happen, we can distribute messages as broadly and as distinctly as possible.
And that was, so you are going to do a reverse
Correct.
test? Yeah,
Yep.
perfect, great. Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we recess, I just want to take the opportunity to express on behalf of the whole board our appreciation for the efforts from the fire department and for Dan Peltier and his people doing what they did yesterday. We should be proud of all their efforts.
Thank you, Don. You okay, Jeff? I am. Okay, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Thank you, and thanks for all your work.